At that stage, then anybody will peruse the report, will mark the report, will underline the report, will critique the report, will do anything with the report, and convince the House that the report is right or wrong, and that decision will be made by a vote by the whole House. In the absence of the latter, then the idea of members reading the report remains academic. The Speaker cannot stop you from later looking for the report and reading it. The Speaker cannot stop you from going out there and commenting on the report where I started. And the first member I'll call to make a comment is one Julius Meli. Yes, Okello, what is it? Yes, Okello.
I thank you.
Order, let's listen to Member Fonyando.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would want to borrow your mind on this. A clear reading of that Article 159 in its entirety, together, Article 152 in its entirety, yeah, particularly Sub-Article 9, read together with our Standing Order number 66, Honorable Speakers, under the Constitution, envisaged a position of unanimity on a matter. Honorable Speaker, in a situation where there is division, there is a minority view, there is no unanimous decision arrived at, Honorable Speaker, that was not envisaged when this was being written, Honorable Speaker. So how do we, as a House, proceed, therefore, in the absence of a unanimous decision? Does it therefore subject it once again to members of Parliament to be heard? Because again, you know, on retrospect, Honorable Speaker, it is 150 members against 7.
Take your seat.
150 against 7,
You've
Honorable
made your
Speaker.
point. Honorable Okello, the report that has been tabled here is from a committee of 11. 7 have signed and substantiated. 4 have penned a dissenting opinion. From our standing orders, the committee cannot bring to the House 2 reports. It is 1 report with a dissenting opinion. It remains 1 report. 2, there is no provision in the standing orders or in the Constitution that requires that such a report must carry total unanimity. It only talks of majority. My wisdom, I think I've discharged it to you. Yes, Wanjala. Wanjala, what is your point of order? And mention the standing order that you are relying on. That's what every member has been doing.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I know you are biased against me, and I'm not talking. Mr. Speaker,
what is standing order are you relying on?
I don't want to indulge in the issue of what the report is all about. But the Standing Order 159 that allows this motion to come in. Mr. Speaker, I have been in this House and you have been in this House. These motions, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I watched them on the TV.
Which standing order did you say? 159? It has no relevance to what you are saying whatsoever. So take your seat. Yes, Sunguli? Order, honorable members. Order, honorable Wanjala. You've had your bite erroneously. The standing order you are talking about has absolutely nothing to do with what you are saying. At all, at all. Yes, Sunguli?
Mr. Speaker, I know that you are quite faithful to the... I don't know whether, Mr. Speaker, you can...
Yes.
And it's not for nothing, because you and I were in the original committee that actually established these standing orders. And you know, Mr. Speaker, that was in the 90s. And don't you think, because you sit in the committee that actually rectifies standing orders, don't you think that it is time you move that this kind of standing order be amended so that we do not leave the authority of Parliament in the hands of very few people, especially in such a very grave matter?
Thank you, Julius Sunguli. You are a lawyer. You know the law is the law. It's not what it ought to be. And the law as it is now is what I have said. The standing orders belong to this House. If in your wisdom you wish to amend the standing orders, so be it. It is not the Speaker to amend the standing orders. If the House wants to amend, have been amended several times to where they are today, and you can amend them as you wish. Now let me, honorable members, allow a few members to make comments, then we go to some other business. I'll start with the Honorable Opio and I. Each member has 3 minutes.
The Honorable Speaker.
3 minutes.
Is it? Huh? I thought we agreed 10 minutes.
Majority and minority, I'll give you 5 each. Each member 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Honorable Speaker, I think we should be a little bit more patient on this matter, Honorable Speaker, because this is a very, very important matter. Honorable Speaker, this is the first time for Cabinet Secretary. It is the first time we are dealing with such a situation, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I want to plead with you that you give us a little bit more time. Honorable Speaker, I want to start from where Honorable Kelo left, very, very quickly. Honorable Speaker, I don't think it was the intention of the framers of our Constitution, 2010, that a decision of this House would be countermanded by a group of 7 people. Honorable Speaker, when we took a vote on this matter last Thursday, a whole 149 members of this House voted overwhelmingly to impeach Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi. It was not with Standing Order 66-7, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and I'm sure you know, you can teach us better. There is a danger in this idea of literally interpreting the law. I'm sure you know better than me of the Berryman case of 1946. Honorable Speaker, a purposive interpretation of the law would actually lead us to the conclusion that the decision of that select committee should have been subjected to validation of the whole House. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, there's a higher moral responsibility, Honorable Speaker, on the part of the Cabinet Secretary. In a vote of 149 against 36, I don't think this matter should have even gone up to the select committee stage. In more decent democracies, the moment this House voted 149 against 36 to send Mr. Linturi home, the decent thing he should have done was to resign. Failure to resign, we would have expected the appointing authority to sack him, Honorable Speaker. Those two have not happened. Honorable Speaker, we are now back here today. We are back here today to continue from where we left last Thursday. Honorable Speaker, I want to persuade my colleague members not to give up, regardless of what the minority of 7 members have decided. Honorable Speaker, against all the available evidence, the minority of 7 members who have decided to let the committee. Honorable Speaker, I dare say that following the vote of last Thursday of 149 against 36, this House will be in its rightful place to resolve not to have any dealings with the Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi. Honorable Speaker, this House has got the sovereign power on behalf of the people of this country to decide not to recognize Mithika Linturi as a Cabinet Secretary in this government. Honorable Speaker, regardless and despite the resolution of the minority of 7, Honorable Speaker, the minority of 7 have actually brought this House to shame, if I may say so. You have brought the authority of this House into disrepute. They have actually made us become a laughingstock. Be actually right, I would be in order to persuade this House to decline, to refuse to recognize Mr. Linturi as Cabinet Secretary from now going forward, and to continue to urge the appointing authority, who is the President, to take the most logical step and sack this Cabinet Secretary, if only to save this country from the kind of ridicule it has been subjected to. With those preliminary remarks, Honorable Speaker, I reject and I oppose. Thank you.
Order, Honorable Wandai. There is nothing to reject. You just make your comments. You are not going to vote anything. I now invite Honorable Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is how every profession is actually represented here. We have experienced lawyers of the advocates of the High Court. We have doctors. We have accountants. We have bishops. We also have the wannabe men of cloth. Could be the, I think Honorable Junet qualifies to be a sheikh. So this is a house where people are drawn from different professions and very experienced in different fields. Honorable Speaker, this is also a house, once one debates, must agree that it is a house where the majority will have their way and minority will have their say. When this motion was brought before this House, Honorable Speaker, the majority had their way, as it were then. But the procedures took center stage thereafter. After the majority had their way, it was formed, Honorable Speaker, and they had their own elections, where they elected a chair to chair the ad hoc committee. And the chair of the ad hoc committee, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Naomi Wako, is a reverend, is a person of great integrity, a person that has served this country in her capacity as a reverend, a person that has served this country as a canon, a person that has served this country as a senator, and a person now is serving this country, Honorable Speaker, as the deputy majority whip, Honorable Speaker. And all the proceedings, Honorable Speaker, were in full glare of the camera. We all watched what was happening. It was basically drama. Everything that we were watching, Honorable Speaker, in the proceedings were actually drama. The matrimonial court the other day. And Honorable Speaker, there is no way a house of competence could have admitted the evidence that was brought. There was nothing watertight as it was being presented, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Wamboka, as much as he tried, of course, in his role as a member of parliament under Article 95 to oversight, Honorable Speaker, he did not manage to raise a strong case, to bring a watertight evidence, to grow his, profile by pushing through a watertight case, Honorable Speaker, to have the Honorable Linturi impeached. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the report by this committee because I believe in them, and as the house of debate, a house that believes in strength, a house that believes in procedures. Honorable Speaker, we proceed. It is done. We are now done with the whole thing, and now we...
3 minutes, so...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyan farmers were duped into purchasing fake fertilizer through NCPB under the full glare and the watch of the CS for Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, a motion was brought to this House to dismiss that CS, and members of the House voted overwhelmingly to get rid of the CS. Then, Mr. Speaker, a committee of the House was put together to go and confirm the report and the vote of the members of Parliament. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the members that were put in the committee, 7 of them went and turned the verdict of 149 members of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker Kajwang, the Honorable Yusuf Farah, the Honorable Catherine Omanyo, and the Honorable Robert Mbui stood with the Kenyan farmers and said enough is enough and the CS must go. Mr. Speaker, the reality is this, that when we went to that committee, Mr. Speaker, the committee, instead of carrying out investigation as was told by this House, the committee went and turned itself into a Supreme Court of Parliament of Kenya, presided over, Mr. Speaker, by the Lady Justice Naomi Wako. And Mr. Speaker, the rest of us became judges. Mr. Speaker, the question we're asking is this: is the committee of the House supposed to operate like a court, or are we supposed to continue operating like a committee of the House?
Order, Honorable Mbui. Rules of evidence apply, limitations on hearsay apply, and everything that pertains to proceedings in a judicial court applies. You are quasi-judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are quasi-judicial, but we became a court of law. Mr. Speaker, there was one major issue that we noted, that there were key witnesses that Mr. Speaker was supposed to have been called. The Constitution anticipates that we call witnesses. The standing orders of this House and even the rules of the committee were allowing us to call members to come and give witness evidence. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, two key witnesses, the PS for Agriculture and the COO of one of the companies that is supposedly mentioned in this fake fertilizer scandal, were actually not called.
Honorable John Paul. John Paul, 3 minutes. You better compose your thoughts quickly. Give John Paul the mic. There you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the report from the committee and to commend, Mr. Speaker, their good work which they did within 10 days, Mr. Speaker. It is commendable that within 10 days, Mr. Speaker, the committee was able to gather evidence and to interrogate both the parties, Mr. Speaker. And today, Mr. Speaker, is clean, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I urge members, when the motions such as this, Mr. Speaker, is brought before this House, Mr. Speaker, it's good for any member who is bringing such motion, Mr. Speaker, of impeachment to do due diligence, Mr. Speaker, and gather enough evidence, Mr. Speaker, which can get maybe the minister with the mistake which, Mr. Speaker, they already seen the years. So, Mr. Speaker, this committee consisted of the competent members, Mr. Speaker, who are capable of it, Mr. Speaker, that the CS is clean. Mr. Speaker, it should also be noted that when impeachment motion is brought in this House, it should not be brought, Mr. Speaker, with perception that maybe because maybe a person has a bad name or maybe the look of that person, Mr. Speaker, that person maybe qualifies to be impeached. So my advice to the CS Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, is that he should stand firm, do work to the Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, so that the Kenyans can have enough food, Mr. Speaker. The work he is doing currently is doing good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And
thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also stand here to express my complete disappointment that 7 honorable members averted the will of so many other members of this House. And Honorable Speaker, I am actually really disappointed on behalf of the farmers of not only Nyamira but the whole of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, Article 153 of our Constitution is very clear that the CS is accountable individually and collectively to the President of this country. And in so doing, Honorable Speaker, it also says that the Honorable CS is stopped from not taking accountability when anything goes wrong in his ministry. Honorable Speaker, I watched the proceedings of the committee, and one of the things that really caught my eye is when the CS proudly demonstrated to the committee of the positive things that he has done for that particular ministry. But the same CS refuses to take responsibility when one thing goes wrong in his ministry. Honorable Speaker, if you look at Article 201 of our Constitution, it clearly says that public money shall be spent prudently and responsibly. It does not make sense, therefore, Honorable Speaker, why money that was allocated to one particular part of the department was reallocated to NCPD and therefore used in a manner that was not prudent. I do not understand, therefore, Honorable Speaker, how the Select Committee, the 7 of them, decided that this of our Constitution is very clear, good quality. Honorable Speaker, the CS in his admission said that out of the 3 million bags, that only 3,000 bags were actually for a fault like that. Because, Honorable Speaker, what if this particular...
Your time is up, Honorable Mayaka. Dr. Mutunga.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this motion.
You have 3 minutes.
Honourable Speaker, as the chair of the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock Development, I am sure the House knows that you have been making an inquiry on this issue. Honourable Speaker, I understand I was there in the last time there was none, in this time there is one. But Honourable Speaker, the law and the Constitution is very clear. And I wish to thank you for invoking, going beyond the provisions of Article 152(9)(a), giving us an opportunity to comment on this motion, even if the business has already been done. Honourable Speaker, as a committee, we have not completed our work. And I want to put it correctly, Honourable Speaker, that the mover of the motion approached me, and I told him the business is not yet done. It would have been prudent to wait until we finish with the report, bring that report to the table of the House, and then the mover would have looked at this report, added an opinion. This motion was taken in haste. We should have taken more time so that we consider the report when it is brought before the House. Honourable Speaker, our committee, or my committee, has been looking at the entire scope of the subsidy program, and we have unearthed many issues. But this was done in full glare of the media. And that, I believe, is the reason why the members of this House believe there was something wrong with this particular issue, that Honourable Linturi had committed a crime. Honourable Speaker, I think it would have been good to wait for the report. Finally, Honourable Speaker, as we move forward as a House, we cannot make decisions based on things that we cannot substantiate, things that we cannot fully address and give evidence. I do stand, Honourable Speaker, to support decisions at the board level, and there is always voting. The number that is more than the other takes the day.
Your time
so it is
up.
not really the numbers. It is basically the decision of the committee. And you have been generous enough to give us an opportunity to comment. Honourable Speaker, the report will be laid on the table of this House, and the House will look at the report and see what has gone on. Because we are not looking at individuals, we are looking at the entire...
Otienda Amolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this, in the majority opinion, has singularly failed Kenyans and must carry a badge of shame on behalf of Kenya Kwanza, MPs in the team, and their surrogates in Jubilee all voted to save the minister. It is only the 4 from Azimio who stood with Kenyan farmers. And so the farmers of Kenya must know who between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are truly their friends. Mr. Speaker, it is good that Parliament spoke and spoke in a bipartisan manner. So we as a House have indicated, but the committee has failed to respect the House as a whole. In proper democracies, the vote by Parliament in itself should have invited resignation by the minister without even waiting for the committee to do its work. But we are not in a proper democracy under this regime. Mr. Speaker, we reflect the wishes of this House by the stroke of a pen. He does not need this House to resolve that issue. Mr. Speaker, secondly, it must be noted, and some members had questioned the wisdom of Article 152. Article 152 mirrors Article 167 in terms of the procedure for removal of a judge. Only that in that article, the Judicial Service Commission plays the role we played, and the tribunal plays the role that the committee did. It is expected under the Constitution that the committee would be a quasi-judicial committee that will look into the merit of the issue. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the committee, most of its members went with a preconception because they'd already spoken here against that motion. And instead of therefore exercising independence of mind, they went with such a motion as he did in this case. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, the mover should be the one to suggest the names of those constituting the select committee. And more importantly, number 3, Mr. Speaker, we should ensure that the members are knowledgeable, they have integrity, and they are independent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Tienda Molo. Rindikiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You have 3 minutes.
I like to support the verdict that has been passed by the Select Committee led by their chairman, Madam Waku. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this House, every year we celebrate what is called crucifixion of Jesus. And they said, let's release Barnabas. Mr. Speaker, what we are hearing now is people calling for crucifixion of Jesus and saying release Barnabas. Mr. Speaker, we cannot pretend as a House. I am very saddened to hear the Vice Chair of this committee, a man of respect and a mentor, disowning the sittings. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice Chairman sat for that committee for 3 days, including the report lighting, and at no single time did he withdraw from the position of vice chairmanship. Mr. Speaker, the decision of the chair and the decision of the dictate terms as what the president of this republic should do. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Karintoli cannot be sacrificed for doing what is good. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Karintoli did not say these 3 charges be brought against him. Mr. Speaker, the mover, first of all, he totally failed to prove the case himself. The failure of this, the failure of the mover of the motion, he brought matters that he could not even himself substantiate. He went ahead to call for evidence support, calling the PS, calling the MD of Care Chemicals. Mr. Speaker, he was looking for evidence. He should have sought for good evidence before proceeding to bring the motion. Mr. Speaker, it is a shame to play for the public gallery to sacrifice one person who has a track record of good performance in this country. And Mr. Speaker, we shall not listen to the public. We shall listen to the rules of this parliament. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Junaid Mohammed. Yes. For avoidance of doubt, I ask your leaders, and this happens in every democracy, on certain issues, the leaders have a discretion to tell the Speaker who they think.
Today is a sad day, indeed very sad day for our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is for sure that this was not the expectations of the Kenyan people today. They expected an indictment because, Mr. Speaker, what happened in this country by supplying fake fertilizer to the public, to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, is a very grievous matter, Mr. Speaker. And for us to exonerate a cabinet minister who presided over that, Mr. Speaker, is also a very, very sad thing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have won the battle, but we have lost the war. Why do I say so? Since the inception, Mr. Speaker, of the new constitution, this is the first time an impeachment of a cabinet minister went through the second stage. After collection of the signature, approval of the Speaker, and then it went through the House and went to the committee. I remember in the earlier 2 parliaments, Mr. Speaker, it never, who remains a hero, Mr. Speaker, in this country for taking the initiative to save the Kenyan farmers, Mr. Speaker. If you watched, because the proceedings were live on TV, Mr. Speaker, what Honorable Linturi was talking about, instead of telling Kenyans how fake fertilizers found itself in the market, he talked about the famous episode, the soap opera of his love gone bad, Mr. Speaker, with the Honorable Keitany. Mr. Speaker, if we continue like this, then in the national holidays, when people are given honors, Mr. Speaker, we should add corruption as one of the honors that is awarded, Mr. Speaker. Corruption should now become a badge of honor in this country, Mr. Speaker. How can this House preside over a committee report that has turned the wheel of 304 impeached? Now, it is now the responsibility of the appointing authority to sack that minister as early as this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, if we were in mature democracy, this cabinet secretary will have resigned long time ago, Mr. Speaker. He will not have been in office by now. He should have left the office And because he has no moral authority to serve Kenyans anymore, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this parliament cannot be used as a rubber stamp, the way I see it happening today. If the fake fertilizer thing has gone the way it is going today, then fake medicine will go through, fake water will go through, fake everything in this country, and the people who are going to suffer in this country, Mr. Speaker, is the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker. If we were elected, and this is not what the Suna East people today expected.
Ichungwa, give him 2 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, when I saw the constitution of the committee that was done by the majority leader, the 7 members from his side, I knew this is an exercise in futility. I knew the matter is dead on arrival. I could see the faces there. I know them. I have been in this corridor. I have been in this parliament long enough. I have operated in this corridor of this parliament. I knew this fait accompli. No report, nothing useful will come out of the committee. Thank you very much. I submit to the Speaker.
Kimani Ichungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I hear what the leader of the minority whip is saying. And it is true, Honorable Speaker, that if you committee, you would know then that impeachment of a cabinet secretary is not a matter that you vote and make a decision based on emotions. It's also not a matter that you decide based on whether you like somebody or you dislike them, or whether they answer your calls or reply to your texts. It is a matter that is based on the law. Honorable Speaker, the preliminary objections you had from the Honorable Otiende Amolo and the leader of minority speaks volumes to the issues that I was speaking to here last week. That one, we sought to impeach a cabinet secretary without duly considering the provisions of Article 152 of our Constitution, and especially so Article 152(7). Of the motion, the Honorable Wamboka, that if I were him, I would have been patient to allow conclusion, a logical conclusion of the inquiry by a committee of this House under the leadership of Honorable Mutunga, the Committee on Agriculture, that I would have been patient to allow investigative agencies to investigate and see if there's culpability on either the cabinet secretary or any other public officer before proposing an impeachment motion. Honorable Speaker, this report, as you said, it is good for academics. And it is important that all the 349 secretaries can never be anchored on our feelings, our emotions, and whether we like somebody or dislike them. That we must ensure any time you want to impeach a cabinet secretary or a public official, it is based on what is provided for in law. Was there particularity in the allegations in that motion? I submitted the Honorable Speaker last week that the motion was laden with generalities and newspaper articles, and therefore would never have passed the test of time if you subjected it to the provisions of the Constitution, our own standing orders, and indeed precedents that has been set by courts of law. And I pointed out the famous Wambora cases, because Governor Wambora, Honorable Speaker, you remember, is a lesson to learn for us as a House. If we propose motions to impeach cabinet secretaries for the sake of it, we will make this House extremely impotent. We will become impotent because we are acting at the whim of the moment. We are not patient to get substantive issues that can truly impeach a cabinet secretary. I look forward to a day, Honorable Speaker, that under the provision of our 2010 Constitution, we will offer meaningful oversight over cabinet secretaries, that we shall take our work seriously as a House. And we make sure, Honorable Speaker, that if we do an inquiry like we were doing, Honorable Speaker, we base all our... We will be able to internalize the reasons as to why those who say that all the allegations are not substantiated, the reasons and the reasoning behind it. Honorable Speaker, I know there are those who have expressed their minority opinion. And Honorable Speaker, I had a brief look at that report, and it is all based again on emotions
and what they want to say are perceptions. Honorable Speaker, the drafters of our Constitution, including the Honorable Tiende Amolo, who drafted this Constitution, should have then considered putting either under our values the question of perceptions, our national values, or probably part of the reasons under Article 152. Our laws, our Constitution, our standing orders do not offer us an opportunity to impeach a cabinet secretary or any other public officer on the basis of perceptions. You may perceive somebody as dislikable, Honorable Speaker. You may perceive somebody as arrogant or as corrupt, but that is not provided for in the Constitution and in our laws. We are the lawmakers. We are the first people who should be the first defenders. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was saying, Honorable Speaker, we swear by the Bible and the Holy Quran when we take oath of office to defend the Constitution and the laws of this Republic, Honorable Speaker. If the Honorable Junet Mohammed gets the opportunity to serve as a cabinet secretary, I will not seek to impeach him on the basis of my perceptions that are not objective at all. That I will seek to impeach the Honorable Junet on the basis of his performance and that which is provided for under our Constitution. Honorable Speaker, it is easy to speak to the gallery, to speak to the media, Honorable Speaker, because the media are saying this and that. I have seen lawyers saying that members of parliament, if the 11, somebody tweeted that the 11 members times 5 million shillings is the basis on which this motion will be decided, Honorable Speaker. And it's a very senior counsel in this country, Honorable Speaker, would be speaking to issues, Honorable Speaker, that any Kenyan who was watching the deliberations of this committee under the full glare of the public, of the media, Honorable Speaker, there was nothing